Hello, everybody. It's Robert Cosmar of the Astrology of Life YouTube channel. Over on Substack, the three newsletters, Knowing Whispers Messages from the Universe, Trump in America, and also Ask the Astrologer. Today, my video is in a request, actually. I had an individual ask me to explain to them the system that I use for meditation. So I have some information here that I'm going to share with you. And depending upon your interest, your knowledge of meditation, you hopefully will find this interesting and helpful. And that if you are not inclined to want to know about meditation, then you probably won't watch this complete video. But I suggest that you should. Okay? What I want to do to start off this video before I get into the part of it that I call the map of consciousness is I want to show you this picture here. And I'm thinking of calling this particular video Meditation, a Drop of Water in the Ocean. Okay? And I'm going to use an analogy here, or a metaphor, to start off this particular teaching, I guess you would call it, on meditation. This is a perfect example of what meditation is. When a drop of water hits the ocean, or a drop of water hits a puddle of water, okay, there is a slight bit of surface tension. But then after that, the drop of water merges into the greater body of water, whether it would be the ocean or river or even a puddle of water. And this very symbolically explains what the experience is or what it feels like to make higher conscious contact. The little you, okay, in a position of surrender within yourself, merges into the greater conscious body of the universe. Okay, so this is kind of the similarity here. And hopefully for some of you, maybe it explains metaphorically what it feels like to connect with your higher self, to experience a higher state of consciousness. In a sense, you have this little drop of water surrendering, okay, itself, surrendering its surface tension and allowing itself to merge with this greater body of water, or if you're talking about consciousness, which is what we are, our limited consciousness. Okay, the surface tension would represent our ego and our mind and our emotions. Okay, and when we surrender those, then we can merge into this greater body of consciousness, just like that little drop of water does in this particular picture here. Okay, now I will try to explain in simple terms for you about meditation, about my knowledge of it, my experience of it, okay? And hopefully you'll be able to maybe have a fresh outlook and a fresh interest in meditating. For those of you that are going through difficult times because of what's happening in the physical world, this is, in my experience and in my opinion, the only way that you're going to be able to combat the fear, the anxiety, the dread of what you feel now and of what will probably be felt as we move towards the election. Okay? And I say that confidently, and I say that definitely to you. All right? That if you're able to make the internal commitment of what I'm going to be showing you here, all right, you will at some point begin to realize through internal revelations what I'm talking about. In the beginning, you might not. Okay, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee that you're ready to do this. Okay, but this is for those of you that may be on the borderline and you're wondering what to do to escape the feeling of dread, the anxiety, probably because you've been listening to negative input, whether it's TV or it is from your neighbors or from somebody else. All right. This is a commitment. This is a devotion to an internal process. And if we look at it any other way than that, okay, we're not going to develop a strong relationship with our higher self. Okay. All right. Let's go forward here to the next image. All right. This image I call the map of consciousness. And about 2 weeks ago, I began to sit down and to formulate this in a program called X-Mind, which is a mind mapping, okay, program. And for those of you that hold on to beliefs, what I call projected beliefs in gods, okay, a God. All right. In other words, you're looking for an entity in some way, shape, or form to rescue, to save you, that you go to and pray and beg that something that you don't like, is taken away. This may be difficult for you to accept what I'm showing you here. All right. Because this particular diagram here is a very simple map of the human experience. Okay. And it shows our responsibility. It shows our capability. It shows the potential for our inner healing and empowerment if we can see this. Okay. All the things that I'm going to show you here, I have been taught by my guidance and my higher self. Okay. I called this particular map, or a subtitle for it, Map of Consciousness is the one that I like the best. Return to oneness, light or darkness. Okay. If you watch my videos, you know that my position on good and evil, God and Satan, okay, is that they are not divided. All right. Our dualistic thinking makes us want to believe that good and evil are not connected, but they are opposites. All right. The truth of the matter is they are connected, and they are part of the oneness of the universe. Okay. And the universe knows, understands, and accepts the darkness as a part of the whole process of what is needed for us to consciously evolve. Okay. Now, some of the different things here that I will talk to you about. All right. You'll notice up here on this top area here, karma, bondage, lower path, duality. This is the path that for the majority of our life we're on. Okay. Until something happens. Maybe it's a crisis. Could be our marriage. Could be a relationship of some sort. It could be our children. It could be our work. It could be a career crisis. Okay. Something causes us to see that we must turn within to a higher power, a higher level of knowledge, a higher level of understanding to cope with the vulnerability that we are feeling. Okay. Human nature is such that unless we are made vulnerable, we won't make a change, or we'll seek to evade making a change, or we'll live in denial. Okay. All of which are not healthy and they're not helpful. Okay. So what is this lower path of duality comprised of? Okay. It's comprising our mind, thinking, logic, and reasoning, our ego, the identity that we have embraced or created, which also has our imagination, our emotions, and is tied to reincarnation, okay, or the experience of having lived one life and to some degree concluded that life, okay, and then we're reborn again in another lifetime. All right. I know that some probably don't accept that or recognize that, and that's okay. As you could continue to evolve and explore yourself, I think that you may change your view on that. But again, reincarnation is why we're here, along with the karma. Okay. Our suffering, our issues that we have to contend with are all a part of karma, reincarnation, and duality. All right. Incorporated in this lower path is what we could call the path of darkness. All right. The path of darkness begins with fear, which evolves into hatred and then violence and then madness, and also control. Okay? The ego seeks to control your lower identity. Okay? This dualistic view of life. All right? The material life, the physical world, okay, is much a part of the stage of, this karma and this reincarnation, this interaction of events and circumstances that happen to us, everybody all the time. Okay? We live in a lower path karmic duality where judgment is a large part of our daily activity. All right? And I hope that you'll see here that one of the things that can hurt your conscious growth is this idea of judging, whether it's yourself, whether it's other people, whether it's things that happen that you disagree with. All right? And from the standpoint of our lower path, or the lower, conscious reality that we have, this can be very difficult. All right? Because it's very easy for us to want to blame others when things don't go right, or if somebody hurts us. Right? We want to tend to blame them versus asking ourselves, what is in me that I don't see that I need to deal with? Okay? The lower path consists of our beliefs that have been taught, that we have accepted, and not really tested to whether or not they're valid or not. In astrology, the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn are all a part of this lower path. All these energies relate to how we express ourselves in the physical world and how the physical world reacts to us. And when we have periods of expansiveness with Jupiter, and then when we have periods of contraction, resistance, difficulty with Saturn. Okay. Consciousness, our external consciousness, okay, part of the ego, part of our mind, our emotions, our imagination, okay, very much a part of the lower path. All right, it's the physical world, okay, and it is a separation from the rest of these things that I'm going to be talking to you about in this particular video. Okay, and we'll show you here. All right, and again, to kind of put this all in a package for you, these are the experiences of being in a normal day-to-day living on planet Earth, where you are mostly identifying with your ego through your mind, emotions, and imagination. Okay? Now, let's say that you're coming into a crisis. Maybe you're dealing with a crisis right now, where you feel tremendous pressure of change being pushed upon you, and you're petrified because you feel out of control and you feel vulnerable. All right, and you wonder how you're going to deal with the pain that your ego is experiencing. Okay, because again, the ego does not like being out of control. All right, and this is often manifested in people's horoscopes when they have Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, sometimes Saturn, in hard aspect, is that you feel like that life's done you wrong. Okay, so how do you cope? How do you deal with, all right, the complexity and the problems that we all face because we are here? We have egos, all right. The ego separates us from others, which causes a whole slew of other problems. How do you begin to take control, in a sense, of your pain or your vulnerability and overcome that? All right. And again, I'll refer back to the image that I showed here before I started this particular image. Okay. The process is for you, the little drop of water, to consciously surrender to the larger body. Okay. And again, that's a metaphor for lower conscious self, okay, ego identity, to the greater body of water, or to the universe, or what is called the higher self. It is a process of surrender and merging. Okay? Now, the tool, which doesn't require you to have to spend a fortune, go to seminars, pay somebody a large amount of money every hour to talk about this. It really boils down to whether or not you are willing to try it yourself. And that's really a good measuring stick for this whole process that I'm talking about here. You need to try this for yourself. You need to test it for yourself. You need to find out for yourself, because you need to have the experiences yourself, not the ones that somebody else has had. Okay? The greatest hindrance to meditation is that people assume that it's some form of hypnosis or it is some form of creative imagination. It is not. Okay? It is not. Hypnosis, okay, fine for working with, the imagination, can in some way, shape, or form soothe anxiety, pain, and fear, but it does not eliminate the fear. Okay? It doesn't go beyond the ego. It's confined. It's restricted. Okay? Some may agree with that. Some may not agree with that. My experience is that things like hypnosis and some form of imaginative type work does not take you into the realm of your higher self. It's just another way of staying in the lower conscious reality with your ego, your imagination, your emotions. Okay? All right, now, over here, meditation, the key to the oneness. All right? What is meditation really all about? Meditation is putting aside your thinking, your emotions, okay, and allowing yourself to simply feel, okay? Allowing yourself to consciously awaken a part of you that is always there, always has been there, okay, but has been dormant because of the development of this lower path consciousness. Again, it's the path of karma and bondage, okay? The key to transcending the lower path, all right, is to enter into meditation, okay? Now, the tricky part of properly meditating goes back to what I said a little bit ago about the imagination, all right? The imagination is a part of your mind, all right? To meditate, you must go beyond the mind into consciousness, all right? You and I are conscious living beings. Consciousness is at the base of all human experience. It's our elemental essence. Okay, the mind and all these other things are added to us, but we're essentially conscious entities. Okay, and the universe is a greater conscious entity. All right, and what you're hoping to do through meditation is to merge like that little drop of water into this greater body of water. Okay, and again, going back to the illustration I gave you a little while ago, there is tension before the water is able to merge. The little droplet of water is able to merge into that bigger body of water. You can see it. There's tension there. Right? But once the merge is made, because essentially they're both the same thing, made of the same substance, then a unification occurs, or a wholeness occurs. All right? And this unification and wholeness is beyond the level of this lower path duality. It is not limited by logic and reasoning and form. It transcends them. Okay? It even transcends intuition, telepathy, clairvoyance, and clairaudience, because it is an awakening part of you merging into the infinite and understanding and realizing who you actually are. Okay? All right, some of the other characteristics here of meditation. It's the beginning of surrender. All right. To meditate, you must surrender your attention to your mind and your emotions and your imagination. Okay. Surrender is a big deal. Okay. And I know that it can be scary to some folks, but you don't need to worry about that. You're just simply taking off the coat of mind, ego, imagination, and emotions, discarding it, going, so to speak, naked, okay, nakedly as you are, inward, consciously, okay, and hopefully to awaken, okay, um, your feeling consciousness, what I call feeling consciousness. Now, CJ and I like to use the word allowing, okay. The process of meditation is not an active process. It's a feminine negative surrender process. In other words, you can't ever think of a way to meditate and make it happen. Okay? You can't analyze it and make it happen. You can't believe in it and make it happen because it doesn't work that way. You have to allow it to happen. And you have to prepare yourself to be able to receive what you are going to receive. All right. One of the defining moments in my process of meditation over the years was a day when I had been for a long, long time, maybe years, used my imagination, uh, meditated, maybe even tried to do a few internal hypnotic techniques, because I was trying to find out how. All right. And it can be extremely frustrating, after a short period of time and trying all kinds of things, rituals and books that you read and somebody else's insights and stuff. It can be very, very frustrating. And as I mentioned early in the video, the whole process of your experience with your higher self is a revelation. It's not an idea. You're not accumulating another idea by connecting with your higher self. What's happening is that you're consciously connecting to a greater part of who you are. Okay, you're reclaiming this territory that has been suppressed by the ego and the mind and the imagination. It's a lower path identity. Okay, so what happens when going back to what I was going to say about this experience, I was meditating and I was aware of my mental and emotional bodies, and I was aware of the fact that I was kind of separating from them slowly. All right. But then all of a sudden one day it struck me, what is that emptiness that I feel? You know how you get into a state of imagination or a state of meditation and you tried all kinds of techniques and tricks and everything and nothing seemed to happen, but maybe one day in the process of the silence what's inside of you, something inside of you says emptiness. There's emptiness beyond all this. Okay? And it didn't scare me that I realized there was this emptiness. What happened was I was curious, what is in that emptiness? Okay? Many times for people who are learning to meditate, trying to meditate, and going through all kinds of gymnastics and ideas about how to meditate, and being given all kinds of advice and stuff, you get to the point where you just want to quit. But something inside of you tells you that it's important that you don't. All right? But it's like many things in life. It's like being in love for the first time after you maybe have spent a number of years through a number of marriages or through a number of relationships. Sometimes you have to get to the point to where you give up. All right, you give up trying to control the situation. You give up trying to figure out how to find love, because in reality it finds you. And the same thing with your higher self. All right, now there is something to be said about karma and your experiences in meditation. Most people do not understand the degree to which their ego through lifetimes has been damaged, and how in a particular lifetime you may go through several experiences of a crisis nature to humble you, to prepare you. All right, life is kind of like going out and turning over hard ground. all right, before the seed can be planted into the ground so that something will grow that's new life, it has to be turned over. There has to be some violent interaction with it. And this is what happens in our life. The karma we go through uh, essentially is to help us to humble ourselves, to reconnect with something that is at the very base nature of who we are, okay, which is the infinite consciousness of the oneness of the universe, okay. Meditation creates awakening experiences like I just mentioned, okay, about this. All of a sudden I was, struck by the fact that there's this unknown emptiness beyond my thoughts and my emotions, all right? And I wondered, how do I find out? All right. And what happened over time was that I began to realize that I had to stop the search in my mind or through my emotions to find my higher self, because I didn't need to. It was there all along. And it was waiting for me to stop trying to figure out how to do it. And then when I allowed it to manifest, that's when things began to happen. That's when inwardly I began to have different kinds of experiences, to astral project. All right, my third eye opened. All right, and I had many other experiences that are difficult to describe because of the fact that they were revelations for me according to my karmic unfoldment and my purpose and my path. Okay. When you're talking about your higher self, you're not talking about something that is abstract and separate from you. You're talking about you, but your consciousness has expanded and you're aware of more of who you are and more of what you are. And you enter into a partnership between this lower self that has surrendered itself to this higher self, okay, which again is the foundation of all existence. All right. And you go through, in that partnership, you go through a process of expanded conscious awareness, expanded conscious knowledge, expanded conscious and karmic instruction. All right. And what happens is that you develop an extreme sense of certainty that you have found the thing you've been looking for. And it's something that you carry within inside of you. And you realize that every day of your life beyond that point, that you are guided, that you have entered into the hall of oneness and unity, that you are being called to be of service to humanity by surrendering this ego, lower nature, the lower path, for a much higher conscious path of self-realization. All right? Meditation creates a conscious separation from your focus on your mind, your emotions, and your imagination into your feelings. Okay? And again, for those who have not been in touch with your feelings, mentally that's difficult sometimes to comprehend. You think it's your emotions. Your emotions and your feelings are not the same thing. Okay? Feeling consciousness is the lifeblood of existence. It's the essence of the universe. It's the essence of you and I. But our mind and emotions and our ego when we were born, that was hijacked. Our feeling connection to existence from where we came was hijacked by our mind, our emotions, and our imagination. And we have lived all our life serving them. Okay? Until something happens and you realize you can't go down that path any longer. And the reason why that you couldn't is because karmically, in your own karma, fate, and destiny, you have chosen to awaken in this lifetime. Not everybody in this lifetime is going to awaken. Not everybody in this lifetime has chosen to come here to awaken. Some, in one form or the other, have chosen to be very grounded to the material, the physical, and to us, in a sense, the dark path. All right. Donald Trump, in a sense, is an individual dedicated to the extremes of the dark path. Ultimate control, ultimate narcissism, ultimate possessiveness, ultimate control. Okay. And as time reveals over the next months or so, several months or so, and even beyond that, we'll see the consequences of that. Okay, some of the other benefits of meditation: astral travel. All right, some people do astral travel. They actually leave their physical body and they are able to experience consciously what lies beyond the physical plane. Others, like myself, project. I'm able to project consciously into the astral plane and to see things. But not everybody astral travels. Some astral project. All right, it's a level of conscious evolution, and it's governed by what your purpose is in a lifetime, what you karmically have to deal with, maybe what you have in terms of your own karmic issues that you have to resolve. Okay, and again, telepathy, clairvoyance, clairaudience, intuition, these are all little peekaboos that most people have at certain times in their life. And because they don't trust themselves, because they don't trust the universe, they may be suspicious about it. They may think that it involves an issue of psychology and mental health, which not in all cases does it. Okay, there's a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of fear around going within, meditating. All right, connecting with dark energies. Maybe I'll connect with a demon, something like that. To connect with a demon, you would have to be pretty well on your way on the dark side, because like attracts alike. Okay. One of the things that I tell people when we're talking about good and evil, light and darkness, in the cartoons you have the little devil on the one side and the angel over here. Okay. Now, a way to understand the true nature of the universe in regards to that, all right, is you don't think of those as being separate. When you have a good day, you own that good day. When you have a bad day, all right, you own that bad day because you realize they're both a part of you. All right, they're not separate. They are you, and you have a good side and you have a not so good side. Okay, and in the same sense, the universe, or if you want to use the word God, is the same way. They're not separated. All right, they're all a part of the infinite existence. Okay, and again, I realize that's why what I'm showing you here and talking about for some will be difficult to grasp, because you have a projected idea of what you think the nature of reality is. And maybe you're in some way, shape, or form looking for someone to rescue you, save you, someone you can pray to and hope that somehow you have favor and that they'll do something for you, win the lottery, save your marriage. All right. And unfortunately, unless you're ordained, predestined to win that lotto, or you take responsibility for a failing marriage, all right, you're going to come up empty in most cases. Okay, so what is the higher path, the path of wholeness? All right, when the little droplet of water goes past the surface tension of contact in a larger body of water and merges into that larger body of water, that is what wholeness means. It means you come to the end of the journey and the end of the search in your mind and in your emotions for what is the truth. And you have already experienced the truth. Okay? Wholeness is when you experience the truth. It is at the end of the line of all the logic and reasoning about what is the nature of the universe and who you are. All right? In that moment, you know who you are. All right, you see yourself as you are in this greater wholeness. Okay, so what are some of the characteristics of the higher path? First of all, consciousness, expanded consciousness. Okay, consciousness is life. Okay, mind and emotion are parts of the experience of living, but they are not life. Okay, consciousness is life. Feelings. Okay. Again, the reason why so many of us have difficulty in being able to find ourselves, to heal the damage in our lives and stuff, is that we don't know how to feel. We don't know how to activate it. All right. You have to understand that because you've been so devoted to your mind and your emotions and your ego, that you have essentially cut off that part of yourself. And meditation, its purpose is to introduce you to what your feelings are. Those feelings are infinite consciousness. Okay. And you and I are infinite consciousness. All right. Right now, we're separated from this wholeness, and we are in a world of duality. Okay. We're limited consciously by our logic and our reasoning and our ego and imagination and emotions. All right. We have to reincarnate because this is a world of karma and bondage. Okay. We have a choice between a dark path and a light path. All right. I have over the years seen many, many people who were truly at the very beginning stages of their awakening process become fascinated with magic. Okay. And of course, there are different religious organizations and things of that nature that incorporate magic into their devotional, services and stuff like that. Okay. With the intent of believing that they have a right to try to control someone or something. Okay. Now, with very few exceptions, the desire to learn any form of magic, okay, essentially the basis for that has to do with a person who feels they're out of control and they want to feel that they have some kind of power. All right. With that kind of attitude, it is extremely dangerous to be playing around with magic. Okay. You're very unlikely to encounter higher guidance if you go that route. All right. And you could get yourself in a whole lot of trouble, and you don't need it. Okay. You don't need to go through extreme rituals. You don't need to follow somebody else's technique that you found in a book or you heard in a seminar. In fact, I would say don't, period. The simplicity of shifting your attention from your lower self to your higher self is through the portal of meditation. Because you're taking off the qualities and characteristics of your lower nature, and you're creating the opportunity for this large ocean body of consciousness, okay, to meet your little drop of water at some point within the unknowable, okay? And in that moment, in that flash of a moment, all the things that you have been searching for your entire life, okay, you don't have any doubt anymore, right? You have a lot of growing. You have a lot of unresolved karma that you have to deal with, okay? But essentially, at that moment, you know what the truth is, okay? And in that moment of knowing that truth, you also have established a relationship with higher guidance and your higher self. And the sense that you have from that moment forward is that every day of your life is directed, okay, with purpose. And consciously, you're aware of that. Whereas before, you were kind of, on the ocean, on a raft with no paddle. All right. Now you have a sense of direction, a sense of conscious clarity. Okay. You're not buffeted by all kinds of self-doubt because you've come to the end of the road. You passed the test, so to speak, and now it's time to make that total surrender, okay, for the rest of your days, to follow the pattern of growth that you're being shown, because this is what your guidance will do, and with the revelation of your gifts, to use those gifts for the assistance in helping others along their path. Okay, we're here to help each other. We're here to empower ourselves. We're here to help each other. We're here to consciously awaken back to our true identity. Okay, some of the other factors here, all right, This is the path called the path of light, the path of higher consciousness. You are surrendered if you hope to remain in this particular path. Okay, that means that you are a servant to the universal oneness, as well as your fellow brothers and sisters. Okay, service is very important. Surrender is extremely important. The little drop of water had to surrender into the ocean for it to become one. Okay, and I've talked here lately over the last month or so about humility and about how important it is. And if you're mind oriented, you probably identify humility as some kind of piety, much of which is very false. It looks like, but it doesn't feel like humility. When you're truly humble, is when you realize that all that you thought you were and all that you thought you were supposed to do, and it just kind of all fell flat, and you were naked and you were alone. Okay. And maybe you felt that you were a failure. Maybe you felt that it was your responsibility. Okay. Why you failed. Okay. Essentially, you come to the end of that old self. All right. To continue down the path of this higher self requires a willingness to be humbled by the things that you discover about yourself that you didn't see, the things that kept you from that relationship, that higher relationship. Okay. To serve the universe, to follow your higher self path, you will be humbled. And not like you're being chastised by a father or a mother that's, got their own problems and they're taking out their frustration on you. You're humbled by the truth. You're humbled by the simplicity of the truth, by the power of the truth. Okay. And you realize that there is something inside of you that needs to be purged. All right. There's no such thing as an awakening experience and you're all whole completely or you're all healed completely. Even as you begin to walk down the path with your higher self and your guidance in hand, you're not the completed product yet. You have a long way to go, maybe some other lifetimes to go. But for a lot of those of you that watch this video, you're on your path, you're on your way, and to one level or the other, you know and understand your guidance in your higher self. Okay. But you can get stuck at any level along the way. You can become fascinated with things that you learn and you discover. All right. And you don't further go down the path of surrender. The further you go down the path of surrender, the more likely you are to be a vessel which the higher self can use to do higher quality work. All right. That's the benefit of that. Okay. Acceptance and non-judgment. These here, when I was shown these by my guidance, it really stunned me because, like you, I have judged myself, criticized myself, punished myself at different times throughout my life because I thought that I did something wrong or that I failed or that I wasn't smart enough or I wasn't, witty or keen enough. All right. And one of the first things that my guidance showed me was that I had to learn to accept myself completely. Everything that I was, everything that I thought I was to be, okay, all of that, the good and the bad, as I would have judged it, all right, that I had to learn to accept that as a part of what the programming was that I needed to bring me to the point to where I was awakened and more awake. Okay. And the moment that you see that, the moment that becomes a revelation to you, you realize that nothing you have ever been through, no matter how bad it was not planned. It was planned. Okay. And that your guidance and your higher self was trying to wake you up and trying to help you. And in that moment, you either had a moment of humility and surrender, or you began to rant and rave and throw a fit, and maybe you ended up drinking for a number of years, or you went and you became friends with pot and marijuana and all kinds of other stuff to escape, okay, yourself, all right? And that hopefully somewhere down the line, you saw those events in a higher light, a higher revelation, and you realized that I have to accept all that I am and all that I have been, and realize that it was for a purpose, okay? And that I can choose how I view those things, okay? Non-judgment. This is the other thing, okay? Non-judgment. Nothing will harm you more in terms of your conscious growth and evolution than to judge, okay? Whether it's you or anybody else or anything. Discernment is another thing. It's different, okay? Discernment is discerning whether or not something's of the light or the darkness, all right? Judgment generally is of the darkness, okay? It is a way of self-tormenting yourself. It's a way of being stuck. It's a way that if you let it eat at you becomes a precursor to escapism in one form or the other, right? It limits your ability to consciously see life as your higher self does. This part of you over here does not see life the same way as this over here does. This is a very limited, restricted, Ten Commandment, law. This is the law type of mentality. You must obey, you must be controlled. Over here, it is much freer, much more consciously accepting, much broader than the quote laws and judgment of men. Okay? It's a big difference. All right? It's a big difference. And of course, this over here respects this over here, because this over here is allowing this to be so that we can grow. We can become more consciously aware. We can claim back our power through meditation. Okay? And we can experience, all right, the unlimited consciousness of consciousness, the formless. There is no form. This is why Neptune and Saturn have a problem with one another. Saturn likes form, beliefs, right? The formlessness of Neptune says, no, the essence of the universe is freedom, free self-expression, free conscious self-expression, formlessness, okay, without restriction, okay. Spiritual, all right, spiritual. I like to use the word conscious. I think that spiritual is kind of a bad word. I also have a thing about anything to do with meditation that incorporates the idea that your mind is involved. Your mind is not involved if you're meditating. If your mind is involved, you're using your imagination, okay? And there's a big difference, okay? And, you have to figure that out for yourself, all right? Unity, all right? Unity. That's the big thing, all right? On the higher levels of consciousness, the universe is a unified whole. And we are being called back into that unified whole to become members of a plan, a future plan of humanity, of creation, all right? Right now, the big struggle is the struggle between light and darkness, pride and humility. All right. These are the two things that the universe is focusing on. Is do we continue down the path of pride, or do we continue down the path of humility? Are we willing to learn? Are we willing to grow consciously? Do we want to know what true freedom is versus the bondage of being in karma or of expecting somebody else to save us? Okay. All right. I hope that what I've had to say here in some way, shape, or form helps those of you that are considering meditation as a way of coping with the anxiety and the fear that's going on. Okay. I wish there was a way to adequately explain what it's like to go from taking your mind and your emotions, off, so to speak, like you were taking off clothes, nakedly going into a meditation, and then how to make that feeling experience, how to make it happen. You can't make it happen. It happens when you're ready for it to happen. Okay. And all the way through as you're growing consciously, okay, from some kind of introduction through meditation, it's a revelation. Okay. A revelation is not something that you can plan. It's something that is essentially makes itself known to you because that's a part of your particular purpose and plan. Okay. My full plan, purpose for my higher self is that I am in part an astrologer, I'm in part a teacher, and to some degree, somewhere down the line, maybe through the work that I do, I'll also be a healer in the sense that I'll be working with my guidance and helping others to connect with their guidance. Okay. That is what I know about me. And it took time before that became obvious, and I'm still seeing things that are being revealed to me as possibilities, okay, as I commit to what I feel the work that I'm supposed to be doing. I started doing the astrology in about 2016. I knew I needed to go on the internet and do videos. I knew that Trump was a dangerous man, okay? I knew, because of the charts, I knew there was going to be trouble. And if you've watched any of my videos at this point, you know there's been a lot of trouble and there's a lot more to come, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to give you also one other bit of information here that I feel is important. Many of you probably know about Cash Peters, okay? For those of you that struggle with meditation, or you are frustrated in meditation, or you're not ready to seriously look into meditation, and you are being tied in knots because of what you see on television, I highly recommend that you go to his website on YouTube. It's Cash, C-A-S-H, Peters, okay? He is an extremely gifted clairvoyant, clairaudient. He has a unique way of sharing what it is that he is given by his guidance and higher self. I know a lot of you that watch my broadcast here, you know about Cash, and hopefully you stay tuned there because he is very gifted in being able to give you some perspective on how the universe is looking at things. Not that he is always maybe necessarily 100% right any more than I am, okay? Um, and the main thing, though, is that he's able to give you a feeling and a sense of how things may go. And that can be mentally, at least, helpful for those of you that are in, suffering anxiety mode over what you see happening or what you think is happening. Understand this, okay, that as of things are right now, the fear is simply our imagination on steroids, okay, because the worst fear hasn't happened yet, okay, and we don't know to what degree it'll happen. But anyhow, in a nutshell, Cash was very good to me a few years ago when I was just starting out in terms of promoting my channel, and I have the utmost confidence in his gifts. All right. And what he does do will be of help to those of you that are open to that type of thing and also want to be exposed to something that's more positive than what's going on in a lot of areas. Okay. Again, I hope that something that I've said today will ring a bell for any of you. I think in ending here, I can say this, that meditation is a commitment and it is a devotion, not to any god, whether you're talking about a Western god or an Eastern god, but it is a commitment to what you have just seen here on this screen. It's a commitment to yourself. It's a commitment to investigating yourself, to your own self-knowledge. Okay? And through that individual self-knowledge, you'll come to understand the universe. Okay? And the way that happens is that because of the way you are within, and because of the healing that you go through with inside of yourself, the outer experiences of your life change. Okay? If you were living in fear and in judgment and in anger, the tendency was for you to attract conflict in some form or the other. All right? And if you don't release that fear and that anger, what happens? Okay? It explodes. All right? When you surrender your life and the things that are happening to you and realize that it's all for the higher good, it takes away the anger. Okay? Because some part of you understands this is for my good. This is not a punishment. I'm not being punished by anything. It is for my own good, to teach me something, to correct something. Okay? When you learn what is being corrected, it'll reflect itself in your outer life. Your life will go smoother. Your relationships will work better. You'll get, quote, luckier, all right, in certain areas. And there's really no end to it because, you know, day by day, when you're walking a higher path, the future reveals itself, all right? It's like the universe doesn't want us to get too heady about things. They want us to take things very slow in the beginning, and most of all, they want us to be humble about it, because to serve your higher self means that you are willing to be humbled and that you have been humbled. Okay. All right. From the low of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, my teacher in many ways and areas of my life, we want to thank all of you, and we sincerely do care about you, how you're going to cope with things. And I'll be doing a video here pretty soon. I don't know if I'll get it done today, but I'm thinking about Kamala Harris and maybe some other things too that I'll do. But we'll see. I have other things to do, readings and things like that. From those of you that donate, those of you that are subscribers and members of the channel, thank you so much. And we look forward to being of service to you throughout this entire crazy and amazing part of our life. All right. So have a great week.